Hi everybody and welcome to another edition of Inside Tiger Football presented by Rib Crib. I'm Charlie Hannema, joined as always by the head coach of the Broken Arrow Tigers, David Alexander. Coach, 8-0 after a big win over UConn last week.
Nice win. You know, 2 road trips in a row to the west side. We got off the bus, excited to play. I was really glad to see that. You know, you're going against UConn, a little different team, a little different mentality. I was glad the way the kids got off the bus and responded.
Ready to not have to prepare for the triple option again this week?
Right. Oh, man. Coach Hill and the defensive staff's excited to play a more conventional offense. The triple option, it changes some of the rules, especially for your defensive linemen, what their responsibilities are, and it just takes you out of your routine.
But your guys did a tremendous job last week.
Oh, man, did a great job. You know, some of the guys that played really, really well, don't have many stats. You know, D'Amico Rowland tackled the fullback every time. Gavin Potter, quarterback responsibility. He had 1 tackle on the night, but the quarterback didn't ever have any rush yards either. He's always making him pitch the football, so did a great job.
Edmond Memorial, the 3rd straight trip to the west side, coming up another Thursday game. Right. What do you look for there?
Well, I hope the kids are not leg weary from all the bus rides we're doing. We're trying to take care of them a little bit in practice, not run them as much, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. We only played this last week against UConn. Offensively, we only had 35 snaps, right? And not everybody had those 35 snaps. Not very many plays. Defensively, we only had a little over 40 snaps, and you know, we subbed out a bunch there. So we need to be in shape. But you know, those 2-hour bus rides 3 weeks in a row, a little worrisome for a coach.
It was a very quick game, too. Just right. 2 hours and 9 minutes, the official time. We were just looking about that. Right. You run the ball so much, and they run the ball all the time, and right. All of a sudden, the game just flies by.
Well, we were happy to play a West Side game and still get home before midnight. You know, fortunately for us, last week, you know, no school on Friday. You know, this week, Thursday night game, but you know, we'll have to be up and first hour by 7:45. So these Thursday games make for a short game week. But after that first one we feel like we kind of gained a day. That Friday work, we can get something done, and then we have the kids in on Saturday.
Thursday this week against Edmond Memorial, then Thursday next week, senior night against Enid as we wrap up the regular season. Health-wise, where is your team right now? Because I know kind of as we get 8 games in here, people start to get banged up a little bit.
Yeah, you know, we had, you know, Zach Marcaselli didn't play any game of the game this last week against UConn. He was dressed out, ready to go if we didn't need him. He had a little friendly fire right there at the end of the Edmond Santa Fe game, sprained his ankle. He's practicing this week. He'll be ready to go against Edmond Memorial. You know, we got a couple guys that are limping around with some soft tissue injuries that are playing. We've not let them run much this week in practice. We're hopefully that that we can just play them a little bit here in the first quarter, get them out of the game, maybe get them 12, 15 snaps. You know, but for the most part, we're pretty healthy. We've got nicks and bruises like everybody else, but we should be going into Edmond Memorial with just all 22 starters from the first week.
And one of the advantages you guys have with the start that you've had at 8-0, you can kind of pull back a little bit in practice. You don't have to go full bore and be correcting so many things and just really hammering it at practice. When you're playing as well as you are, you can kind of massage the weaknesses a little bit. They're the injuries.
Yeah, we can. You don't want to, but you know, you can. And everybody's doing it. Everybody is in the same boat, right? Everybody we're going to play in the playoffs is in the same boat. They've got some guys that are nicked up, right? So it's how those young men handle it in the training room, handle it during practice, right? Make sure they're getting their head into practice, where they're getting those mental reps. And we've got a pretty mature team. We have our knuckleheads, but you've got a pretty mature team that they know how to handle business down. And this whole team is putting the team ahead of themselves, and it's really fun.
Love it. We'll take a timeout here on Inside Tiger Football presented by Rib Crib. Coach Alexander and I will look back at a 56-3 win over UConn after this.
The Tigers of 1929 tied for the Oil Valley Conference lead with rival Bixby Spartans. Broken Arrow's only loss coming at the hands of the Spartans, who finished their schedule with 2 ties and no losses. Apparently, Bixby wanted no more of our Tigers that year, as they refused a challenge from Broken Arrow after the season to play off the tie. This great moment in Tiger history is brought to you by First National Bank of Broken Arrow, a loyal fan of our community for over 100 years. First National Bank of Broken Arrow, the right balance.
My dad's always saying a little extra effort now will really pay off later. Here's how you can put in just a little extra effort and help out our schools in a big way. Just switch your checking account to TTCU. It's easy. You get $150 just for switching. And every time you use your school pride card, TTCU donates to our schools. So far, over $1 million. They're the only ones doing that. So make the switch to TTCU and be the person who's making a difference for our schools.
Inside Tiger Football, presented by Rib Crib, is brought to you in part by St. John Broken Arrow, Tulsa Bone and Joint, First National Bank of Broken Arrow, TTCU Federal Credit Union, the Arrow Group, and Matthews Ford. Thank you for your support of Tiger Football and Broken Arrow Public Schools. Charlie Hannema and Coach David Alexander back with you here. We look back at a 56-3 win over Yukon, and the story again, Noah Cortez, early and often.
Charlie, he did something this last Thursday night that I don't think I've ever seen. I can't recall it. You know, he scored on our first offensive play of the first half, and he scored on the first offensive play of the second half. Both big runs. I'm not sure that I've ever seen it. Preparing for our offense is just as difficult as anything that people do. They don't see it. They don't understand the physicality of it, and it surprises them when we get off the bus and that first play, we come rolling off the ball. And Noah's so big and so strong and so fast. There's a few times in those games, right, those safeties make business decisions. They come running downhill and they say, man, that's a big dude. He's got a big beard, he's big, he's strong, and they just decide, maybe I'll be better off not trying to tackle this guy.
We've seen that, and UConn goes 3 and out to start the game on offense. Broken Arrow gets the ball. Cortez snaps off a 47-yarder right away. Just an 8-second drive. That's efficient. 7-0. Then UConn did snap together a little drive, but held to a field goal.
Right.
And so after that, it was all systems go. Cortez, a short touchdown run. Quintevin Cherry had another 46-yarder, and they had some trouble bringing him down too.
Not only, we've talked about how he's accepted his role and what he's doing, but talking about his football ability. He's surprisingly fast, right? It's easy to see how big he is because he's almost the biggest kid on the field except for Andy Ream. But he's surprisingly fast. He's surprisingly nimble for a guy that's long-legged as he is. And, we put those defensive coordinators for other teams in a bind. He throws the ball. So what are you going to do? They can't make a right decision. And if we get them where they're playing a little bit of coverage and he decides to run it, it's all systems go for Big Q.
Yeah, Q finished with 6 carries, 99 yards, and that 46-yard touchdown. So he continues to have a great season. Then it was back to Cortez, another short touchdown run, and then we had some defense again. Machota comes up with a pick 6 and takes it back to the house.
Well, Bryce Machota, he's got as good as ball skills as anybody on the team. That's including all of our wide receivers. But I'm sure we might get to it. You might bring it up, Charlie. But not only did we have a pick 6, we had a couple other interceptions as well. We gave up 0 passing yards in that game. So I went back through all the records, and that's the best any team's done since 1957. Right? Now, in 1957, they had a minus 13 yards passing statistic. So in today's game, you can't do that. Right? The sack goes against your rushing total. So I don't know how we can do better than 0, but if a team can't throw the ball at all, you're gonna do okay.
UConn's quarterback Jackson Young 0 for 6, 3 interceptions. Machota had the 1, Slusher had 1 he returned. Machota had 2, and then Slusher had 1 that he returned for 45 yards. It was kind of bizarre to watch the UConn passing attack because it was really whatever the drop was, 3 or 5. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then throw it. Who cares if they're open? And they weren't because your defense was everywhere. And sometimes you kind of looked at it and said maybe just hold on to that, but.
Well, the 2 safeties did such a good job, because everything they did was off of the quarterback under center, just, stepping 2 or 3 yards, faking the fullback and then dropping back. So the backside safeties, he's rolling high, reading released by the wing, and the discipline of Miles Slusher and Bryce Machota got those interceptions. They weren't great throws. you know, they run the option. They probably don't throw the ball in practice. They probably don't have a 7-on-7 period, right? They're working on reading the veer block and working on the pitch relationship. So if you can get them behind the chains, tackle the fullback on first down, you know, your defense is setting up pretty nice.
Yeah, UConn was 14 of 30 passing coming into the game. So 7 games, 14 completions. You could see the numbers there. Not great. They don't throw it a whole lot. Sometimes they don't need to, but when you get behind the score, get behind the chains, you get in trouble.
Well, they had success against everybody they played running the ball until us. You know, they were up 2 scores on Edmond Santa Fe. You know, they went right down the field on Jinx, missed a field goal, but they went right down the field on Jinx. They were 4-0 in one part of the season. So, so far we're the only team that kept them behind the chains on first down.
35-3 at the half. Second half, as you mentioned, first play, Cortez, 80 yards, ties his longest. He had an 80-yarder at Owasso, too. And it just, watching the seas part, I mean, it was an 80-yard run that, I mean, could have been a 300-yard run.
Sure.
Nobody was going to touch it.
You know, it's, you know, not get too technical with it, but we're pulling linemen on that play, and our center, Kane Robinson, pulls around there, and he's standing in the middle of the hole because there's nobody to block, right? And Coach Harper's on the sidelines, you know, get out of the way, get out of the way. So, you know, and there's just nobody there. We knocked everybody down, and Noah outrun the angle from the backside safety and corner.
And then you find one through the air, Colton Fair, his first touchdown catch. Great to see that.
Well, it was great for Colton to get the catch, but it was a great catch. Coming back through the coverage, you know, he got a pass interference. Obviously, we declined because we got the touchdown. So it was a great catch. I've got Jeremy Buzzard had a great picture of it. I've got that saved in my phone. Really happy for Colton.
Awesome. And then Keon Barnett, the youngster, in mop-up time there in the fourth, 18-yard touchdown run from him. And there's some potential as you look at, you know, who replaces Noah after he graduates. There's a little bit of a pipeline, looks like.
Keon has done a great job. When he came in, as you know, as a freshman coming up to the sophomores, you know, we had all the reports. We talked to freshman coaches, and there were a couple guys that were maybe ahead of him. And he's worked so hard. He's pushed himself past the other guys in his grade. Really proud of the smile that Keon brings to practice and how hard he's worked.
Final stats for the game against UConn. Cortez, 17 carries, 194 yards, 4 touchdowns, an average of 11.4 yards per carry. That will get it done. Yeah, he's now 189 yards away from tying Jamal Shaw for the all-time career rushing record, 190 to break it. So you figure probably not against Edmond Memorial, you never know, but looking like very special senior night and a historic night for Noah Cortez and the Tigers.
Yeah, you know, Edmond Memorial, you know, we're going to coach the game. We're going to go out there and win the football game as best we can. And, you know, we hope that Noah really only gets 6, 8, 10 touches, get him out of the game. And if he breaks the record, great. I don't foresee it happening. You know, I've talked to Noah and what we'd like to do. But also Noah says, you know, if we have to win the game, we got to win the game.
Sure. If
Noah's got to get it. But senior night, he's a senior. He's been a 3-year starter here. He started whatever it's going to be by the end of the year, 36, 38 games. It'll be nice to get it home.
Absolutely. The season numbers on Cortez, 155 carries, 1,220 yards, and 24 touchdowns. So just an incredible season for the Broken Arrow Tigers so far, and we're just getting started.
Yes, sir.
We'll take another break here on Inside Tiger Football presented by Rib Crib. Offensive coordinator Jay Wilkinson is our guest after this.
In the folded flag, we see the heavy price of freedom. Nearly 9 out of 10 dependents of America's fallen and disabled soldiers do not qualify for federal scholarship assistance. The Folds of Honor closes that gap, already providing over 10,000 scholarships. Join us in this noble mission. Donate today at foldsofhonor.org. This is your call to duty.
My kids had just recovered from being sick, and I found myself sick. And it was time for me to get the care that I needed, and I didn't want to get the kids out of the house, so I used St. John On Demand.
St. John Clinic On Demand is our innovative 24/7 virtual care clinic. It's accessible from your phone, from a tablet, or from your computer anytime.
I registered for the appointment on my phone and visited with a provider and had a prescription called in for me all within an hour.
So the type of patient that would use this service is someone that has a minor illness. Angela's case is a perfect use of our services. We came to her in her time of need versus her having to come for us.
St. John On Demand is such a great alternative to loading the kids up, getting them to the doctor's office, waiting in the waiting room. So now I'm healthy, my kids are healthy, and I will definitely use St. John On Demand again.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football, presented by Rib Crib. Jay Wilkinson is our guest this week, offensive coordinator and coordinator of compliance and eligibility. That sounds like you've got a lot on your plate over there.
Yeah, you know, lucky to have a job in the athletic department, oversee kind of basically certifying all of our athletes in the district that compete for all of our different sports teams. And so see a lot of names come across, don't see a lot of faces a lot of times. There might be a 7th grade girls basketball player that I don't necessarily know who she is by the look of her face, but her name's come across my desk, and I've certified her to compete for Broken Arrow.
Yeah, tell us about what it takes for somebody to be eligible to play, because you think about like eligibility for college, but we have eligibility rules here at Broken Arrow for athletics, fine arts, all sorts, basically any extracurricular activity. You have to have the grades to be able to participate.
Yeah, and on a weekly basis, we do a grade check. All of our coaches have to certify that all their athletes are passing their classes, and so that's an OSA rule that we adhere by. And so I kind of oversee all that, make sure all the coaches are pulling their lists correctly, sending those to me, and that we don't have any issues.
Then you do a little bit with recruiting as coaches are trying to figure out, does this guy have the right classes, or does he have what he needs to be eligible for my school, before we even talk about the athletic ability part of it?
Yeah, Coach A gets the fun duty. He kind of talks to all the coaches, and then when they need transcripts or something like that, he says, hey, I'm going to forward you this email. And so I work with the counselors. I keep all the transcripts on file, and then if there's any questions, we go back and look and work with the college coaches to make sure that kids are in the correct classes, ACT scores align with their core GPA and that sort of thing.
Catch us up on your kind of your career cycle, because we know that you were here at one point and then left to go to Coweta and then Deer Creek, and now you're back. But just kind of take us from the beginning, how you got here the first time, and just your career arc.
Yeah, I've kind of bounced around. Started my career at Shawnee, moved to the area first and was with Coach Trimble at Jinx. That's where I first met Coach Alexander. And then left Jinx and spent a year with Coach Blankenship at Union for a year, and then took a head job at Metro Christian. Was fortunate enough to become the offensive coordinator at University of Central Oklahoma. Spent 3 years there, kind of wanted to get back to the area, and so settled back at Broken Arrow for those years, and then took the head job at Coweta, Deer Creek, and fortunate to be back.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. Coach, what does Jay do so well that he makes him a fit for this staff?
Wow, that's a long answer. When Steve Dunn, our athletic director, he came in my office at the end of a season 2 years ago and sat down and said, hey, I'm going to throw something on your desk that's really may shock you. I said, okay. He said, what about Jay Wilkinson, right? I'm like, okay. Getting Jay back here, there's nobody in the state of Oklahoma. He went through his resume right there. There's nobody, right, that's called as many plays in as many different situations with great players or with average players, or have to try to figure out how to score touchdowns than Jay has. And we're lucky to have him. He loves his job. He loves kids. And having him around, right, is not only good for me and what he does, right, but he's great for these kids here at Broken Arrow.
Take us kind of behind the curtain a little bit, without giving away all your secrets, but when you're putting in a game plan for a game like this, when you face a different opponent each week, how much do you keep the same? How much do you change? And just kind of what's the kind of the day-by-day workflow on getting ready?
Well, we kind of do what we do. I mean, we've got a great room. I mean, our offensive coaches, we all get along. We all are passionate about football. And so, when the game wraps up, Saturday we come in, we review film. When that one's over, we kind of start breaking down our next opponent, and it's kind of throwing stuff at the board. Everybody's kind of pitching their ideas. Hey, what do we like? What do we don't like? Coach A's in there. He's scratching some of our stuff. No, that's too crazy. Hey, let's give that a shot. And so, and then by the time we come back in on Sunday, the biggest thing is just presenting in a different way. We're to the point now where we kind of have our schemes and our systems in place. So it's now, okay, what looks can we put our kids in the best chance for success? And so we work hard on the weekends to kind of get those planned in place. And then the hard part is just, we have so many good ideas, willing which ones are going to work, which ones we need to, throw out, maybe save for a later opponent. And so that kind of becomes at the end of the day on Sunday, it's like, okay, what are we going to take in? Because we only get so many plays. Like last week, I think on Wednesday, we ran about 62 plays in practice and we called 35 in a game. So it's kind of like, managing that deal and making sure we get enough practice reps. That's kind of where, kind of balancing all that out kind of becomes difficult.
How do you balance, because I know, all coaches have a style that they like, or whether it's offense, defense, whatever, but how do you balance, what's in your head versus the team that you have? Because obviously if you don't have a quarterback, you can't air it out 65 times a game, and if you have a really great running back, you're going to lean on him and not throw it.
Right. Well, and that just, it comes down to, when I first took this job, Coach A kind of painted the picture of what he wanted the offense to look like. And then from then, we've worked as an offensive staff to kind of complete that process. And so, week to week, we kind of always add new wrinkles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we've got to put our kids in the best chance to be successful. And that may necessarily not be, scoring as many points as we need to. I mean, you've got to play in the defensive side and special teams. There's a lot of times Coach Hill's on the headset yelling, hey, we need about 8 to 10 play drive right here, when we might be able to dial one up in 1 or 2 plays. And so there's a team aspect that goes into that. And, I think that's kind of the challenging part for us is, to be able to, have those 1-play drives, but then also come back and grind it out and have a 15-play, 7-8 minute drive. And so I think that's kind of where we've kind of evolved in our second year, is understanding what Coach A wants, being able to, kind of go out there and create that picture that he has in his head of what he wants the offense to look like, and put our guys in the best possible places to be successful.
Coach, we've talked about this before, that, you've given a lot of the credit to the success this year with having returning coordinators. So just talk to me a little bit about that. The comfort level when you've got coordinators back for year 2, as opposed to having to install a whole bunch of brand new stuff, and what are we going to call this play, and just everything there.
Well, when Jay got here, since Jay's here, when Jay got here, right, we started talking about playbooks and how we're going to call formations, and we took what Jay had been doing for years and years and years, and we took what Coach Alexander had been comfortable with, right, and we're not either one of them. We're not using either one of those. We're kind of in the middle. We erased the chalkboard and the dry erase board, and we started from scratch with an offense. And so when you do that first year, and we're just he's driving back and forth from Edmond and trying to get here, and spring ball and summer, and it's going just super, super fast. And so you get to that first game, and you're just hoping to have a game plan that's ready that might work. Right? This last year, we had the season, we had the time to cool down, figure out what we were good at last year, go into the winter. Really, Jay really got to know all the kids, from number 1 on the roster to number, 125, right? To know what they can and can't do. It's so much better for Coach Wilkinson and Coach Hill to see those guys in off season, who can run the cones, who can't, who can catch, and not have to try to figure that out when they got pads on the first day of practice.
Absolutely. I love it. Offensive coordinator Jay Wilkinson, we have to leave it here. Thanks for your time, though. Good luck dialing up some good ones Thursday against Edmond Memorial, and we'll try and keep Spav from heckling you too much from the booth. So
thank you.
Appreciate the time. That's Jay Wilkinson, offensive coordinator of the #1 Broken Arrow Tigers. We'll take a timeout and break down Edmond Memorial when we come back. This is Inside Tiger Football, presented by Rib Crib.
The 1982 Pride of Broken Arrow Marching Band had a spectacular and rewarding year. Led by senior drum major Paul Gerder and junior drum major Mindy Denton, the Pride and its members practiced relentlessly with the utmost determination and won the sweepstakes of the Midwest Championship in the Colorado Marching Band competition, which was truly a great honor and led many to declare the Pride the grandest band in the land. This great moment in Tiger history is brought to you by First National Bank of Broken Arrow, a loyal fan of our community for over 100 years. First National Bank of Broken Arrow, the right balance.
My name is Abigail Bailey. I was at my yearly checkup when I was 12, and we went and got x-rays, and she diagnosed me with scoliosis and that we needed surgery as soon as possible.
Tulsa Bone and Joint was very compassionate. They took their time with us. They answered questions. He was very encouraging.
Dr. Clark helped me see that there is life after spinal fusion. Just because your spine is fused doesn't mean that you can't do what you love to do.
Welcome back to Inside Tiger Football presented by Rib Crib. Final segment as we look ahead to Thursday's game against Edmond Memorial. That's on the road again, Thursday night, 7 o'clock kickoff at Edmond Santa Fe. So we were just there 2 weeks ago. If you remember how to get there, just take the same route. We'll have the broadcast for you, Lord willing, on AeroVision. That's a little before 7, and on the Sports Animal pregame show starts at 6:30. Coach, Edmond Memorial down a little bit this year, but they are coming off a win over Enid, 42-20 last week.
Yeah, they're struggling a little bit. New coaching staff, new head coach, and they're trying to figure it out. You know, I think last week went against Enid, their tailback, who's a really good football player, honestly. Broke off some big runs. He's had a really solid football season for a team that's had their record. And so I know we've really done a good job defensively against the run, but you know the emphasis this week is going to be tackling that young man. Is
there anything you try and add in? You know, we got about a minute left here on the show, but when you're 8-0, it's like what do you focus on?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to give you the exact answer on that, but here's what we're trying to decide as a staff, right? Do we fake a punt now so that they worry about that in the playoffs, or do we work on some fake punts and don't run them so we have them for the playoffs, right? Do we build some tendencies that we're not going to use? You know, things like that, staff concepts, right, that we need to make decisions on. And then you go, but you want to go win this football game and get your stars out of there as quick as you can.
And a clean effort,
right?
You know, try and clean up the penalties as much as you can. Some of those just happen, but
yeah, penalties between the whistles happen. It's the ones before the snap and the ones after the whistle you got to get cleaned up.
Absolutely. Coach Alexander, thanks for the time as
always.
Charlie. Good luck Thursday night. We'll talk to you on the Tiger Kickoff Show a little before our broadcast gets started. This has been another edition of Inside Tiger Football presented by Rib Crib. We thank you for joining us tonight. For Sean Hill, Greg Spencer, and Terry Sprider, I'm Charlie Hannema saying good night from Broken Arrow.